All right, we do have some big updates on the Titan submersible implosion. Take a look at this. Titan debris lands in St. John's Harbor. These photos coming from this morning. Debris from OceanGate's Titan submersible landed. The Horizon Arctic, which was engaged in the search for the Titan submersible, arrived on the south side of the harbor shortly after 7:30 a.m. After some time, a crane on board the vessel began removing debris from the Titan onto trucks, and it says about 10 pieces were taken off the ship, beginning with the porthole. So that is kind of curious. They're saying the porthole from the Titan survived the implosion. Because remember, the Titan only has one porthole and one window. A larger panel was also removed and something obscuring the OceanGate logo as well. So that is the current status on the debris. Looks like they've recovered some of it and they are taking it in for further investigation, I'm sure. We've also got this interesting thing talking about the legal aspects of the case. How about this? Legal expert says families of submersible victims have no case for suing OceanGate, and this got me really intrigued. You know, what is OceanGate's waiver that the people traveling on the submersible had to sign? And it is just completely shocking. I'm going to show it right here. Let me find it really quickly. So this is the waiver that they hand out for you to sign. Release of liability. This operation will be conducted inside an experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and may be constructed of materials that have not been widely used in human-occupied submersibles. So they really cover themselves there, don't they? Just with that first paragraph. Travel in and around the vessel could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. The support vessel could expose me to property damage, injury, disability, or death. Assisting in the operation of the sub could lead to property, injury, disability, or death. And of course, I'm sure you might be wondering, after reading this, liability form, why would anyone sign this? I'm sure Stockton Rush and other people at OceanGate, in the context of handing these out, are saying, oh, we just have to cover ourselves. We've got to hand these out. It's just something that every company does. That first paragraph is really remarkable. This operation will be conducted inside an experimental submersible. Experimental. That is going lower than 99% of subs right now in the world, and they're calling it experimental vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and may be constructed of materials that have not been widely used in human-occupied submersibles. I'm sure they're referencing things like the carbon fiber hull, its shape. There's another story that came out. Titan sub passengers signed waivers covering death. Could their families still sue OceanGate? And there's a bunch of legal jargon. There's problems with it being on international waters. Complicating the question of liability is the incident occurred in international waters. A section of OceanGate's waiver known as the choice of law provision becomes especially important, he noted. The waiver, which was reviewed by the AP, found that any disputes would be governed by the laws of the Bahamas, where OceanGate is registered. The Bahamas, whose legal system is based on English common law, is considered a business-friendly jurisdiction. So we will have to see if the families can get money, because there was another, legal expert who came out. That was a Fox News article, and said that he doesn't think the families have any case at all. I would disagree with that. A lot of this, listen, when you look at the waiver that they signed, I didn't think it was going to be that ridiculous. And you have to wonder, why would you sign something like that? It says this is an experimental submersible that might, it's basically saying in the waiver, this thing might implode. We don't know what's going to happen. But you also have to understand, again, the context of signing these things. A lot of these people are Titanic fanatics. They want to go down there. They want to see it. And it's all like, oh, you've just got to do this to cover yourselves in a worst case scenario. That's less than a 0.001% chance of happening. We understand. We'll sign it. It's not going to happen to us. You've got to understand that's a lot of, what's going into. people who sign these things, if you actually read it, it is pretty remarkable. I think if you're a lawyer arguing for these families, number one, the context is these families are completely loaded, right? You know, the two people that went down, the one dude with his kid is a billionaire, and then you had another extremely rich person on board, and then you had a Titanic expert and the CEO of OceanGate, Stockton Rush. So when it comes to the people trying to sue, if they try it, they're going to have amazing lawyers. I'm sure there's going to be some type of investigation into the warnings that were given by people that were former employees of OceanGate that Stockton Rush fired in 2008 and 18. Maybe OceanGate can argue that Stockton Rush completely reconstructed the Titan submersible after that, because he did. But still, the issue, I think, is the shape of it, which doomed it from the start. And yeah, this is another story. Experts say the Titan sub's unconventional design may have destined it for disaster, and that might have to do with its shape. The article mentions that the sphere is the perfect shape because water pressure is exerted equally on all areas. Titan's larger internal volume, while still cramped with a maximum of 5 seated people, meant it was subject to more external pressure. And that might be an argument right there to where you could say, listen, this thing, the design of it was compromised because they wanted to fit more people on it, because they wanted to make more money off of each dive that they did. Because these dives down to the Titanic wreck cost so much money to even perform. That's why they're charging everyone that goes on them $250,000, even if you can just fit 1 or 2 more people on there. You know, when we've looked into the different submersibles, the very few that do go down to the Titanic, they're all spheres, and the biggest one that I saw was 3 people at the most. And even that is ridiculously cramped with 2 people on each side and 1 person in the middle. So I will say, when James Cameron went down there back in 2001, it did seem like he had a similar submersible to what the Titan was. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong because it's been a while since I've seen those videos, but I do remember James Cameron looking through video, and it seemed like it didn't seem like a sphere, but that was way back in 2001. We have better technology now. You would think there would be regulation behind this stuff. So all of this is very interesting. We'll have to see what happens when it comes to the debris that is found. I'm not really understanding. They're saying they found the porthole on this implosion. That's completely shocking to me, but that was from a story that was released this morning on the site of where the debris was sent in St. John's. They said there was a porthole, there was an OceanGate thing, and there was a side area of the Titan that they did recover, and we'll have to see when those are made public. I'm sure, again, they'll be going through investigations, but the story right now, is OceanGate going to be sued? They did cover themselves pretty well with that waiver that they had everyone sign. It's just remarkable if you're a billionaire that you would, I mean, listen, again, it is context. You know, it's 2020 hindsight when you talk about all these different waivers. Think about the waiver that you sign when you go skydiving and stuff. I mean, it's not like that, but this does seem like a situation where OceanGate made that waiver pretty strict in terms of, yeah, we realize that this is an experimental thing. We might be cutting a few corners, so we have to go really hard with what we state, and we're going to basically say, listen, you might die. You know, and if you die, we're not liable because you signed the waiver, and maybe they'll be able to cover themselves, but I do think there could be things to look at when it comes to maybe a faulty design. But you also have to wonder, the waiver says it's experimental, so now we're getting into some real legal waters with what does experimental mean? Would the word experimental allow OceanGate to circumvent all of these safety precautions that you're supposed to take when it comes to going down to any type of wreck that deep into the ocean? It's a very, very rare thing, and it comes with insane water pressure. There's also new photos that show a deep sea robot being used in the recovery efforts. We don't want to see a photo of the frickin' robot. We want to see the debris, But at least when I upload this video, you know what's going to happen? It's going to get released right before I upload a video. And just one other thing when it comes to the families possibly suing OceanGate. This is from a legal expert. I would suggest looking closely at the exact language of any release terms and see if there is any misconduct that was not covered that may provide grounds for a lawsuit. I think this might come down to what the word experimental means, honestly, when it comes to the lawsuits. I mean, these people are loaded with money. If they do decide to sue, they're going to have really good lawyers. You know, OceanGate, they did cover themselves with that waiver. Will it be enough? You know, you want to talk about the amount of people that told the CEO, Stockton Rush, this is not safe. That was back in 2018. He could argue, listen, we redesigned, OceanGate could argue they redesigned the submersible after all of the concerns. But I mean, we have video of Stockton Rush saying, yeah, we cut corners, we're unconventional, that's how we do things. I mean, that's, not a good look. So either way, we'll have to see what happens on this story that is still developing. Guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.